Some comments, I really do. I like some comments, don't care about you. I like some comments.
Quantum Teens to kick us off then this time. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Yeah, I'm not really sure why I've picked you either. I've never been what you might call overly flagellistic. Not really. But I figured if I'm ever going to get round to giving this half-baked scheme some kind of closure, might as well cover a letter such as this sooner rather than later. If only to save some kind of wacky Q-shaped shadow hanging over us all, taunting us quietly with its quirky Q-ness and, you know, what have you. So yeah, what I did was I plucked 3 QE titles right out of air, and I've got to say, at face value, while I knew I dug one of them a fair bit, the other 2 I weren't too sure about, what with one thing and another. So I guess we'll see how that pans out there, won't we? How exciting. And yeah, Quantum Teens are go! Kicks off mid-scrap, with a couple of young guns going out to leather with some of them there errant robots and whatnot, before swapping quick to morning after, representing a fairly familiar modern day kid-stroke parent beef, all about that there generational alienation and all that time-trodden malarkey, which breaks off into one of them there teen romance things. So far, so far. And next news, our so-called heroes run into some dude who stands out from the off as one of them. You know, is he on this strictly qui-vive, or is he some kind of backstabbing beggar who'll run away with all secret sausages first time yon backs are turned? One of them like. And for a while it starts to feel like love's young dream may well have bitten off more than they can chew. But lo and behold, their boss boffin stylings fare and well enough to stretch out the tail a bit before it all starts to become clear that, surprise surprise, all is not quite as it seemed. That is assuming you could suss out just what were what prior to realise that it wasn't. What were what? What were yon shadow folk seemingly in cahoots with yon fella's deceased parents and all that? You know. Gotta say though, as, you know, seemingly unconventional as some of the premises here, certainly in big scheme of things, you know, it is a comic book after all. There's an underlying theme that most people can probably empathise with. Certainly at some stage of their lives, any road. And that's what might keep your interest here, if Rock'em Sock'em Robots ain't really your bag. And I guess big do's and little do's, this weren't my kind of thing really. All the various different parts are of themselves the basis for something really interesting, but it comes off much more surface than depth, considering some of the themes it picks up and never goes anywhere with. Kind of fur coat and no knickers, as my grandma used to say. Howard the Duck then, innit? I've got to say it's nice for a cynical old curmudgeon such as I to have something here I knew that I dug beforehand, to help buffer two bits that I were less than half sure about. And 1970s Howard the Duck kit is something I've gone back to repeatedly down years. And so here we are. This tale here kicks off with our hero seemingly on the cusp of some kind of acute mental health episode that the other kind of quack chucks a few tranks and whatnot at, while Bev rues the absence of a contemporary society that supports those in need regardless of financial position. I guess maybe in the meantime they could put any treatment received on Howard's bill. Hey? Hey? And whether it's the needle he's just been given, or his extreme exhaustion-induced coma, Howard then heads off on an existential trip, and paranoia kicks in, second-guessing all manner of status quos, before Howard half coming to, on a bus bound for Cleveland, whose passengers seem plumb keen on leading him down different ecclesiastical routes, and while he's not on his best run of well-being form, their judgmental claptrap seems to kickstart his inner agitator and get his motor mouth running with a bit of jumped up juice back in his tank, kinda like his web feet touching the bottom of the duck pond before springing him back up to the surface. And when some obsequious old dear gives him a granny gobful of riotous righteousness, pointing some pretty outlandish globe-tampering Illuminati fingers square at him, Howard's pasty pendulum swings back into action, and he lamps a one right in a kooky old kisser, in a pugilist precursor to a good old duck-dealed tar whooping. Well, blessed be the bald-headed peacemakers looking to divert all ill-feeling energies into some kind of happy peace picnic, and as permanent, it just spins out from there. Read this if you've not, man. Read them all. Pretty much the entire series, really. Then read them again. Once you suss that of their type, and certainly of their time, these are mini masterpieces in their own right that patch together a quirky, quacky quilt that subverts and deconstructs entire genres while keeping the funny four-colour clock ticking over all the way. In some ways, I'm not sure this has ever been bested for me. Just give it a do, I said. Just don't bother with that film they made though, eh? Quite kind to closers then. And yeah, I'm phoning in last bit, perhaps, with this 56-page one-shot. But I'll give it what I've got. And I'll do this last bit in rhyme, for no reason. But that's your lot. Weird llama on the cover, whose hair looks a mess. Spooky chick too, so bonus points for that, I guess. Now, I'm not sure if this lad's got some kind of psychosis, or it's simply just part of Jon Fox's hypnosis. For the courage and stoicism the boy seems to lack, old Fox is just showing him how he can fight back. And though old Snakeface takes issue with the fox, 'cause to him it seems he's opened Pandora's box. And he just might be right, as fond are the fears, and next news there's maggots pouring out Bully Boy's ears. See, bullies can be strong, but they're far from immortal. And next news some griffin steps out of yon portal. And from there it just trips out a bit more, as Fox tries to hit folk who don't know the score. Then there's barely written lines to help fill up some room, interspersed with some action like heads that go boom. But do you know what's happened? And it's almost an art. I'm even less invested in this than I were at the start. And that's saying summit. It's quite a to-do. But I guess it's my fault for choosing a letter Q. Thank you very much.
Like some comments.